Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me is our host, football extraordinaire, the football encyclopedia himself, Vincent Turner. How's it going, Mr. Turner?
How you doing this morning, Mr. Jeremiah?
Whew, man, it's been a great morning to talk football, I'll tell you that. We've already had some great videos, and I cannot wait to keep it going. Talking about our history special today, the man himself, Packers great Willie Davis. Man, so tell me, what makes Willie Davis great, and what really brings him to the forefront in your mind?
I think when you look at Willie Davis, he kind of played during my era when I was growing up. He was a guy that was one of my heroes. I'm not going to tell my age, but you know what year I was born in, 1960. So you can figure that out. But when I think about Willie Davis, I think about old school football. And I have a story to tell. I remember as a sophomore at the University of Arkansas, coming home in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, spending the summers, used to have different relatives. They used to come on every Sunday and sit around the table and talk football. And one of my uncles, he was by marriage, a guy by the name of John T. McAfee. He played center. Let me get this right, because a lot of people down there in Mississippi gets mad at me if I don't pronounce it right. He played at Alcorn State. And I hope I pronounced that right for the people down there in Norman, Mississippi. But I remember my uncle telling me back when he played center, it was a day in September the 24th, 1955, when Alcorn State played a very good Grambling team that year. And my uncle played center. And he was telling me he was coming out on the pool. It was a power sweep. And he said this young man from Texarkana, Arkansas, lean and mean, came up and delivered a blow right to his face. And all he can remember was seeing stars. And he remembered that guy's name. And that guy's name, he was a senior defensive end from Grambling State University by the name of Willie Davis. Well, that team in 1955, Grambling, went on and won the Black National Championship down there in the Orange Bowl and played a great Florida A&M team at the end of the season. And Florida A&M had two great running backs. One of them went on to the National Football League by the name of Willie Gallimore. But the best player on the field that day was Mr. Willie Davis. And Grambling won the national championship that year in 1955. Well, Mr. Davis went on, got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, didn't play the first 2 years in 1956 and 1958 because he had to serve a military obligation. But he played for the Cleveland Browns with Jim Brown for 1 year from 1958 to 1959. Then Cleveland had promised him some, but they traded him to Green Bay. And at the time, back in the late 50s, Green Bay was the bottom of the bottom of franchises in the National Football League. But they hired this guy who ended up being one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game. I think people out there remember his name. His name was Vince Lombardi. And he wanted this young man out of Grambling State University by the name of Willie Davis by way of Cleveland Browns because he knew Willie Davis can be the mainstay of his defensive line. Well, at that time, Willie Davis thought about playing football in Canada. And right before the day he was going to sign that contract in Canada, he got a call from the great one, Vince Lombardi. And there was one thing Vince Lombardi told him. He said, Willie, I want you. And I believe in you. And I think you can be great. And ride with me right now because in the next 5 to 6 years, we can do something special in Green Bay. And he remember the key word he asked Willie Davis, I want you. And he said, do you want to be great? And Willie Davis went on and said, you know what? Here's this young man nobody knows about, Vince Lombardi. I'm going to take my chances and go on and become a Green Bay Packer. Well, one thing I say about Willie Davis, when he went into Green Bay, listen to the accolades. 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time NFL champion, elected defensive player on the 1960 All-Decade team with Lynn Barney, Dick Butkus, Bob Lilly, the great one out of Mississippi Valley State, Deacon Jones. Willie Davis made that team as being one of the greatest in all 60 players. Then in 1981, voted the NFL Hall of Famer. But this is what sticks out the most about me with Willie Davis. In 1965, he was the first Black African-American to be elected captain on any team in the National Football League. Wow. And look at all his peers that elected him captain. Bart Starr, Forrest Gregg, Jerry Kramer, Ray Nitschke. And they went on and won 2 Super Bowls. And there was another comment that Vince Lombardi said that when I read about Willie Davis, he said, Willie Davis played every down like he had to prove something. Mm-hmm. Prove something. And then when you look at it, the time Willie Davis with the Green Bay Packers, for 9 years, he played every down and never missed a game. And when you look at football now, how many players play 9 straight seasons without missing games? Oh, that's what I think about Willie Davis. But this is what separates great people, great leaders, great persons. After his career, he retired in 1969. He decided that I need to go back to school. He got his master's in business administration from one of the best schools in the country, the University of Chicago. Right. And I'm going to read a list of all the board of directors that he was on, that he was a member of their staff. Alliance Bank, Dow Chemical, Johnson Controls, Kmart, LA Gear, Manpower, president and owner of All Pro Broadcasting, which he owned 5 radio stations. He raised a son, Dwayne Davis, that became a professional actor. And Dwayne has a son right now, Willie Davis' grandson, Wyatt Davis, who's right now the starting left guard for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who's a potential first-round pick in the upcoming 2021 NFL draft. So when you think about this young man from Texarkana, Arkansas, son of a sharecropper, Willie Davis' story doesn't have to say no more. And he's beloved in the state of Wisconsin. Voted into the Athletic Hall of Fame in 1987. But the one thing I'm going to repeat that sticks out to me, Vince Lombardi said this about Willie Davis. He played every play like he had to prove something, and he never took off. And one more comment. It's his coach that recruited him from Texarkana down there in Grambling, Louisiana. Eddie Robinson said that Willie Davis is probably the greatest defensive player I ever coached, because Willie brought something that we say back in the neighborhood. He brought that thump.
He brought that thump.
One of the greatest football players I've looked up to. It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't know about him because he retired in 1969. But when you think about the Green Bay Packers, you think about Grambling University, you better think about Willie Davis. Outstanding man, a man of humor, a man of faith, a man that made a lot of people proud. Made a lot of people proud in his hometown of Texarkana, Arkansas. Made a lot of people proud at Grambling State University. He made a lot of people proud in that Green Bay Packers organization. And what he done after his career, a very successful businessman. And that's all I have to say about Willie Davis, man.
Man, Willie Davis, so this is one of those players, again, that I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's like, do people really realize exactly what the depth of a guy like this has done? And not only his stats, but what he went on to do as a player, as a leader in the world of not only football, but just in life. And I think that that's one of the things I want to make sure that we always highlight here on the show is some of these greats, they make it to these high levels, and we always remind ourselves of how great they were as football players, whether it's in college or the NFL or even in high school. But what I think is very important is to realize one of the other reasons that these players tend to make it to these high levels is because they're just great humans. They really are amazing people who really fight for what they believe in and are really there for the people. And so, any other final thoughts on Willie Davis?
I said the one thing that sticks out of my mind is that 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time NFL champion, but doing what we're going through now, the times that's happening right now at the present, 1965, voted a captain of one of the greatest football teams during that era, the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
And that was a time, I'm not going to go politics today, but the respect that he had to have from Bart Starr, Paul Hornung, Jim Taylor, Forrest Gregg, Jerry Kramer, Ray Nitschke, that's saying a lot about this young man. out of the great state of Arkansas, Texarkana, by way of Grambling University, member of the 1955 Black National Championship team that beat Florida A&M with Willie Gallimore. My love and respect to the legend, Willie Davis.
Hey, respect to Willie Davis. You are watching 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. We bring you history specials, prospects, team previews, and more, including great interviews. If there's anything that you'd like to see on our show, including amazing history specials like the one we just did with Willie Davis, then please let us know in the comments. Go to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, our Twitch, any other platform that you prefer, and make sure to follow us and subscribe so that you can see all of our videos. We come to you live every single week on Mondays and Wednesdays, all the time. We have multiple shows, and we'll be launching even more great properties soon. So for the whole team here, I am the producer, Jeremiah Long. You've been joined with our host, Mr. Football himself, Vincent Turner, and you've been watching our special on Willie Davis. So for all the team here, we'll see you a little bit later in the week. Bye, guys.